Hello everybody. Today I'm going to be reading to you the book The Best Nest by P.D Eastman. Mr. Bird was happy. He was so happy he had to sing. This was Mr. Bird's song. Do-do-do-do-do-do-do. I love my house. I love my nest. In all the world, my nest is best. Then Mrs. Bird came out of the house. It's not the best nest, she said. I'm tired of this old house, said Mrs. Bird. I don't like it. Let's look for a new one right now. So they left the old place to look for a new one. This looks like a nice place, said Mr. Bird. Let's move in here. But someone else had already moved in, so they looked for another place. "Ah, this one looks nice," said Mr. Bird, "and there's nobody in it." "Ah, you're wrong," said Mrs. Bird. "This house belongs to our aunt." So they went on looking. I like this one," said Mr. Bird. "It has a pretty red flag on the roof." "Oh, I have always wanted a red flag," said Mrs. Bird. "Maybe this place will be all right." But it wasn't all right.
I guess I made a mistake," said Mr. Bird.
We all make mistakes, dear," said Mrs. Bird. "I'm going to pick the next house." And here it is, right here. They flew in. They looked around.
"Oh, isn't it a bit too big?"
asked Mr. Bird. I like this big place," said Mrs. Bird. "This is the place to build our new nest." They went straight to work. They needed many things to build their nest. First, they got some hay. Then they got some soda straws. They got some broom straws. They got some sweater string. They got some stocking string. And mattress stuffing. They got some horsehair. They got some man hair. Soon they had all the hay, all the straw, all the string, all the stuffing, and all the horsehair and all the man hair they could carry, and they took it all back to build their nest. Mr. and Mrs. Bird worked very hard. It took them the rest of the morning to finish their nest. "Oh, this nest really is best," said Mrs. Bird. "I want to stay here forever." Mr. Bird was very happy too. He flew to the top of his house. He sang his song.
"I love our house. I love our nest. In all the world, our nest is best." Do-do-do-do-do.
He was so busy singing that he didn't notice Mr. Parker coming. Every day at 12 o'clock, Mr. Parker came to the church. Mr. Parker came to pull a big rope. The rope went up to the bird's new nest. The rope rang the big bell right under Mrs. Bird's nest. Bong, bong, bong. Mrs. Bird got out of there as fast as she could fly. And when Mr. Bird came in, all he could see was a big mess of hay and string and stuffing and horsehair and manhair and straws. But where was Mrs. Bird?
Oh, I will look for her until I find her,
said Mr. Bird. He looked high and he looked low. He looked everywhere for Mrs. Bird. He looked down into a chimney, but Mrs. Bird wasn't there. He looked down into a water barrel, but Mrs. Bird wasn't there. And then he saw a big sleepy cat. There was a big cat with a big smile on his face. There were some pretty brown feathers near the cat's mouth. Oh, Mr. Bird started to cry.
Oh, oh dear,
He cried.
this big cat has eaten Mrs. Bird.
Mr. Bird flew off.
I'll never see Mrs. Bird again,
He cried. It was getting really dark and it started to rain. It rained harder and harder and harder. Mr. Bird couldn't see where he was going. And crash! Mr. Bird bumped into something. It was the old house. That old house that Mrs. Bird didn't like.
Oh, I'll go inside,
Said Mr. Bird.
I'll rest here until the rain stops at least.
Mr. Bird went in, and there was Mrs. Bird, sitting there singing. Oh, I love my house, I love my nest, in all the world this nest is best.
You here?
Gasped Mr. Bird.
I thought you didn't like this old nest.
Mrs. Bird smiled. I used to not like it, she said, but a mother bird can change her mind, you see. There's no nest like an old nest for a brand new bird. And when the egg popped open, the new bird thought so too. The end.